Good morning, everybody. Hello. It is Thursday. What is today? The 16th of January.
That's
I
the day.
am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall, and you are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI for short, because we bring you too much information. Anything from news, politics, lifestyle, fad diets, tattooing, I don't know, what else? Science.
Genital piercing.
Ooh, tattoos and genital piercings.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Body modification.
I was gonna say body cleanliness, because there's
or
a whole
lack thereof.
there's a whole genre of this emerging field of interest, we'll say.
In what?
In not bathing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
as it being like a matter of health.
Yeah, I know someone who's very much into that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read a book about it last year called Clean, and I've been trying to track down the author to join us someday, because I'm fascinated.
Well,
so yeah.
Call them.
I can't get a hold of him. We'll talk about this off air.
All right.
But it's a really fascinating topic.
Gotta have a publicist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. We gotta talk about that sometime. So if you're looking for
a stinky publicist.
We can talk about this. If he doesn't join, I'm just going to talk about how stinky he is on air.
Yeah. Join unless you want to be stink shamed.
So if you guys are looking for this straight-laced, button-down show, this is not it, because we do stink shame, and we drop F-bombs. So if you want to hear about the hot topics, we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about stuff you didn't know that you needed to know. We are live Monday through Friday.
Lukewarm topics.
Yes. Random topics. Every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to like and follow the show if you're watching on YouTube. We've got our watch hours according to producer Robbie. Now we've got to hit the tier levels of getting approved for monetization. The 500 mark and then the 1,000 mark. So please, if you're watching this show, please just hit that subscribe button.
We really need tens of thousands of viewers.
We really do, but we need to at least hit our milestones. And I get it. We're a brand new show. We're like less than 3 months old at this point, but we're trying to grow. So if you can, please share this content, folks on Rumble. We always appreciate your continued loyal support there. I think we have a very strong support base in Rumble and in the Rumble room where the chat gets hot. So please hit the like button there, because you guys will help us with the algorithm if you're not in the financial position to help us as a paid subscriber. So at any rate, we appreciate any of that support, especially if you can help us spread the word so people can find us and join this. I don't know if we're setting a revolution, Ted, but we're definitely like
a de-evolution.
Maybe more like it. So today we are going to be talking about Joe Biden's farewell address, amongst other things.
His
obviously, like the Gaza ceasefire. His swan song was lackluster. I mean, we'll play some clips.
So shocking.
And obviously, yeah, I know. And I have to wonder if it was in the real Oval Office or the fake one that they made for him.
What fake one?
Yeah, he has a fake Oval Office studio space.
Is it like a Burisma?
Is it at Burisma? I don't know. I think it's on the grounds of the White House. You didn't know that, Ted?
No. Why would they do that?
I don't know. That's the whole point. Is they constructed a whole fake Oval Office outside of the physical White House, but on the grounds. But it's
is it like a security thing?
I don't know. It's a studio though. It's made as a small studio space.
Oh, maybe it's got better acoustics or something.
Lights, acoustics. So it is meant to look exactly like the White House, and it's technically at the White House.
Also, because Tony Blinken's usually using the real Oval Office.
That's what I wonder, right? But I know as far as the technical stuff goes, like the fake Oval Office has like the lights and the, like all the acoustics and all that stuff, and more room for cameras and things like that.
Mm.
Real Oval Office, they have that pesky like heritage furniture in there. And like you can't really move that stuff, like the Resolute desk. I heard it's pretty fucking heavy. So
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so they can't really position. I don't know.
It's not that big.
It is not that big. It's like I've seen,
when
the
I
average
become
living
president,
room.
that thing is going back into the National Archives. I'm going to get a big ass desk.
But yeah, the desk is surprisingly small.
I need a big desk.
I do too. I have a big L-shaped desk, and even that's not big enough. So
yeah,
that's what she said.
Mine's covered with crap.
Mine too. So that's also what she said. All right. With that, I guess we should head over to headlines because we got. I think there's a lot to say about today's topics.
We do.
Yeah, there are definitely some things there. All right. Cue my favorite part of the show.
The sound of Joe Biden's opening and shutting his jaws. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a phased ceasefire and hostage release agreement. The terms of the ceasefire agreement, brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and American officials from the Biden administration and the incoming Trump team, were announced by Qatari officials at a press conference late yesterday. Israel's cabinet still needs to ratify the agreement and was supposed to do it today, but actually the ministers haven't met yet, and Netanyahu is accusing Hamas of reneging on parts of the deal. Hamas says that's not true. The first phase, which is supposed to last 6 weeks, will see Hamas release 33 hostages. In exchange, Israel will free hundreds, I've heard 1,000, Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. Israel will pull its troops back to the edges of Gaza, though withdrawal from several strategic points, like the Nasirim corridor that bisects the enclave, or the Egypt-Gaza border, that's known as the Philadelphia corridor, remain a matter of separate talks. Palestinians will be allowed to go back to the ruins of their homes, and a surge of humanitarian aid will be allowed in, this despite the fact that the Israelis have always claimed that it was always allowed in, but now they're agreeing to actually allow it in after saying that they've always allowed it in, but not allowing it in. A second phase will entail further prisoner exchanges, and phase 3 would be about a more permanent settlement about the status of Gaza and who's going to govern it. In other words, would it be Hamas or would it be someone else or a puppet state? Both of these phases are supposed to be negotiated during the first phase. Out of the roughly 250 hostages taken by Hamas and its allies on October 7th, 98 are being held in Gaza still at this time. We don't know how many of them are still alive. There's been estimates of about 25. As it demonstrated through the deal, the incoming Trump administration is the sole actor with sufficient leverage to press Israel to make necessary compromises. That, according to Hugh Lovat of the European Council on Foreign Relations. But Lovat also warned that without a durable plan for demobilizing Hamas, setting up a new government, and bringing in international peacekeepers, the benefits of the ceasefire could fade away very quickly. A ceasefire without a meaningful political progress towards ending Israel's occupation, he said, will ultimately prove unsustainable. That's going to be one of our main topics today. I'm happy that this has happened, but I have to admit I'm not very hopeful here. Not in the long run.
No, me neither. I've had several Palestinian and then other Arab friends, texting or chatting with me and celebrating the latest news. But I keep telling them, hold your horses. Like don't break out the bubbly just yet, because have they forgotten that America was a part of all of this, and war is kind of our business. Like that is our main main export.
Yeah, we love our wars.
We love wars. So
not to mention, it's like this doesn't make any sense. I mean, we'll be talking about it, but I mean, in reality, right? It's like, well, I mean, Hamas is not going to voluntarily step aside And
No.
there's no other entity that's prepared or able or who would want to govern Gaza in a post-Hamas scenario, right? The Israelis would want to round up members of Hamas and, kill them, or at least,
Right.
or maybe just imprison them forever and torture them. That's not something that Hamas is likely to agree to. And who's going to want to administer this place that's been completely destroyed? And who's going to pay to rebuild it? I mean, there's so many questions here, and I don't think Israel has any answers. I mean, they're living in the Israelis are living in a fantasy world. They're like, we're not paying to fix it. We're, the whatever, the Emiratis are.
There's no you break, you buy policy there.
There should be. That's the Colin Powell doctrine from the first Iraq War. I don't know. It's just like they're crazy. The Israelis are crazy. They think that like other people are going to pay to fix their shit, and that there's going to be like, I don't know, Clovis is going to administer the Gaza Strip for them or something. They
are not crazy, Ted. They are conditioned by the United States because we have continually cleaned up messes that they've made across the Middle East. But we continue to support. Like I've made this comparison before. The Israeli government is very much like a spoiled, bratty child.
The brattiest and most spoiled of all children.
The brattiest of all of our kids, right?
Yeah, and the worst.
And they, and we keep folding and letting, especially with Bibi coming back to power like 800 times. Like he never
instead of being in prison where he belongs.
Right. People always people talking about Trump needing to go to prison or even Biden going to prison. Like this dude, literally, he and his wife, his own people want to put him in prison, and he changed the whole judicial system and the makeup of their laws for their Supreme Court so he and his wife can avoid jail time. Like this is nuts. But but the U.S. continues to never say anything because it is the Middle East's only democracy, Ted.
Well, I mean, ish. Let's say it's not really.
Well, I've read press releases, Ted, from the White House. They say this is the Middle East's only democracy, and that's how you do democracy.
But it's not. But most of the people who live there aren't allowed to vote. So.
That's how you do democracy, Ted. You abolish the Supreme Courts and how they, how they can vote and their power. You get rid of the powers of voting.
Half your population is under military occupation.
I'm just telling you the new rules in this 21st century of how democracy is defined, and I'm not limiting this to Israel. I mean, we see this all over the place.
Oh yeah,
Ukraine.
That's one example.
Romania.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, this is like par for the course in the new millennium. I'm just saying. But I do want to point out, like, this guy. Okay, so Joe Biden's there. Obviously, he wanted to make this a punctuation mark ahead of his farewell address last night, which I question whether if it was really live or in the Oval, because we know that he doesn't do events after 4 p.m. Remember, like that's legit. Karine Jean-Pierre
it easily could have been recorded. Easily could have been recorded. Yeah.
I'm not convinced yet.
Really, why not?
Like, what does it matter? I'm not convinced that was live or even in the real Oval Office. But at any rate, I think his administration wanted something to walk away with and be like, look, this was our legacy. Meanwhile, there are confirmed reports that Bibi and other members of the Knesset on both sides of this argument have said that Trump played a role in this because of he's kind of done the Trump thing and had very bellicose language on truth, basically saying all hell's going to break loose, if
we should save
deal
that
wasn't done.
We should save that for the actual talking about it. Well, I guess we can talk about it. I mean,
why don't we talk about it now? We don't have a guest.
We can talk about it now. That's true. I mean, it's true that he did say that, and I guess there's, I think what's really the issue here is that basically the game that like Netanyahu and the Likud party play in Israel is that they characterize the Democrats as being evil and enemies and anti-Semites and enemies of Israel, even though, of course, the Democrats give the Israelis everything that they want all the time. But that's their game. And with Trump and the Republicans coming in, they can't sell that to the Israeli people anymore, because Trump is the guy who moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, something that drove the Palestinians completely crazy. And he's always been a good friend of Israel, and that's at least the way that the Israelis characterize it. So he's made very clear to Netanyahu. He's told him both publicly and privately, you need to wrap up this little genocide project you've got rolling in Gaza. You got to, it's going to mess up my party on January 20th. So, quit wiki here, and that's what they did. And so, there's no doubt that the Trump team had an effect. This is very reminiscent, this deal, of what happened in 1980 with the last-second hostage deal between Ronald Reagan. Basically the Iranians did not want to release the 52 hostages held in the Tehran embassy until January 20th, 1981, when Ronald Reagan took over. And we later learned that there was a secret deal, right? There were back-channel communications.
The Carter
treasonous, really, between Reagan and Tehran.
Yeah,
totally. Saying, like, you hold the hostages until I get in.
Right.
So, I mean, if one of those hostages had died in those ensuing weeks or even months, that would have been on Ronald Reagan. And as it is, that was an unnecessary trauma that they suffered, too long.
Right, an additional day or two because they didn't want to give Jimmy Carter the victory.
Yeah, I think it was weeks, really. And, and it's also reminiscent of, to a lesser extent, of 1968, when Richard Nixon, apparently, this is less well documented, but is probably true, that Nixon had back channel communications with North Vietnam and said, hang tight, don't sign any kind of peace deal.
The cavalry's coming
with LBJ, because don't worry, Tricky Dicky will be there and he's got your back. Of course, Tricky Dicky being Tricky Dicky, he had nobody's back but his own. That and maybe the drink cart, and that was it. So, but yeah, there's all these kind of things. I don't think this was a secret anything. I think this is exactly what it looks like. It's a 3-part deal. The first part, and by the way, I just want to say the strangest part of this whole thing is when they said they're going to release 100 or so hostages, of whom some are alive.
Just the phrasing, is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, first of all, if your corpse is released, are you really being released? I'd say no.
Freed.
I mean, if I'm held hostage by a foreign power, and I die in captivity, I don't care what happens to my fucking body. You can leave it there. Makes no difference. Care. What?
I said you can't care. You literally cannot care.
Right, and no one should care. It's like, once I'm
dead, you literally couldn't care less. Like
that's right, or more. I just couldn't do anything because I'll be, dead. So it's very strange. It's like, it's going to give some closure to their families. No, it won't. It's just going to bring. I mean, what is this obsession with bringing back some old bones and pieces of gristle because they happen to have your DNA on it, so that then they can bury it or burn it? Like, what? Who cares? This is the funeral industrial complex. Leave them there.
Let their bones lie where they are.
I don't understand how they do that in Vietnam. When they every now and then they find the bones of an American who pilot who was shot down
over the jungles of Laos, in the mountaintop somewhere.
Yeah, and they find this fucking guy and there's almost nothing left because there's
literally
right?
It's a tooth and maybe part of his jaw.
And then they throw that in a FedEx box, and then there's a big, so that they can have a thing at Arlington. Why? Right. What for? Do the thing at Arlington, but you don't need the bits and pieces, really.
Right. Yeah, that part, I don't know. I don't know why. And this is the thing around the world. This is how people, I don't get it either, but it's very impractical. But I don't know. I guess for their religious purposes or I don't know. I don't know what that closure is, because I agree. It's kind of like, well, once they're gone, they're gone. If they're not, done in a traditional fashion wherever you're from, right, where it's the whole body and you can maybe have an open casket or whatever, like we have out here in the West, then I don't get.
Like, if we're gonna have the whole
saying
body,
goodbye.
we should like have some AI fun with it, like animatronic. It like walks around like, oh,
That's Joe Biden.
yeah. My thought exactly. You stole my joke.
Well,
you
sorry.
pre-stole my joke.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going into the joke.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh, well. Yeah, you can. Well, great minds. All right. So
That's right.
Joe Biden's speaking of which, final address to the nation struck an ominous tone after warning of the growing power of America's ultra-wealthy and cautioning that an emerging oligarchy threatens the foundations of U.S. democracy. I wonder if he scheduled this meeting between his DNC fundraiser and his latest meeting with Burisma and Hunter Biden. The Wednesday primetime Oval Office speech came as Biden prepares to hand the presidency back to Trump, whom he defeated in 2020, only to see return to power after Biden's own dramatic exit from politics over the summer. Today, an oligarchy is taking place in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead, Biden said. The president outlined some of his most pressing concerns, including what he described as a crumbling free press. If only there was someone whose job it was to fix problems like this. We would call this person perhaps a president of the United States. The outsized influence of the military-industrial complex, rising disinformation, and the need to remove dark money from politics. He also called for constitutional amendments to ensure presidential accountability, arguing that no president should be immune from prosecution for crimes committed while in office. Mendel, this is one of those things where this was meant to echo Eisenhower's 1961 farewell speech, warning Americans about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
That happened a few years before I was born. But I remember when I read about it, it was like, that's so cool. I was like, Eisenhower's a jackass. No one presided over the expansion of the military-industrial complex more than Dwight D. Eisenhower over the 1950s, right? And so he's wallowing it. He's like Palmolive. You're soaking in it. And then he's like, oh, by the way, there's this problem. This is like Stormy Daniels warning you about having sex for money or something. It's like, what? It's like, this is what you're all about, right?
That's your thing.
Yeah, it's your bag.
Look, we have to save this.
No one's as guilty as you. This is like the oligarchy. Is he kidding me? It's like he's surrounded. The DNC is completely wallowing in money. He only became president because he was representing the interests of the oligarchy to cockblock Bernie Sanders.
Totally.
That's why he's there. And
I'm going to save all of my comments for the actual, chat time on the back half of the show. But yes, and like, how dare he even talk about freedom of the press when he tried to bring about Nina Jankowicz? He tried to Nina us.
Well, he literally de-employed us personally.
Yes, he literally we are not a free press because of him. So yeah, we'll talk about this at length.
By the way,
half of the show.
And by the way, it is true that there's the whole crumbling newspaper problem, right? And by the way, that could be fixed by Congress. Honestly, what we need is for the media to be exempted from antitrust laws, so that so that they can collude and set up a structure so that they don't have a race to the bottom under capitalism. So they're not, so for example, if they had all agreed when the internet happened to say nobody puts their content online unless you have a paywall. If they had all agreed to do that and set like prices, they could have preserved themselves. But they were all like, well, the Washington Post is doing it. We have to do it too.
We got to hurry up too. And that's how you get everything to be false. It's fast and wrong. So
right.
I have been an editor, a copy editor, and all of these things once upon a time when Americans or people around the world, and No, I'm going to bar most people outside of the Western world because they do still read. They actually read, right? Like whether it's on their phones or whatever, paper or whatever. People actually read outside of the Western world. But I'm going to say here for the US, the fundamental thing, if you want journalism to succeed, first, you need to bring up our children's reading levels. How about that? How about having American children being able to read?
Well, that's obviously pretty fucking important, right?
So
No
yeah,
question.
that's a whole different conversation. We can talk about that a whole different time. But let's keep moving through the headlines and we'll talk.
All right,
We will jump on Biden.
Chinese officials and automakers are eyeing German factories slated for closure and are really interested in VW's sites. That, according to Reuters, buying a factory in Germany would allow China to build influence in Germany's prized auto industrial sector, home to some of the oldest and most prestigious car brands, including Volkswagen, who was founded by Adolf Hitler. Actually, truly.
I know.
No, I mean, there's a really great picture of Adolf cutting a cake with the VW logo on it. Adolf was one of the main initial shareholders of the original VW in Germany. And people might not realize this, but he and VW invented the auto loan. There was no, people always had to pay cash for a car before the Nazis invented the auto loan. So when you have an auto loan, whether for better or for worse, these days it's more for worse. I remember when auto loans were great. They were like almost free money, right? It was almost like even if you had the money in your bank account to buy a car, it's stupid not to take the auto loan.
leverage other people's money.
5% interest, you know.
Wow.
Now it's
you
like
didn't see that, Ted. No way. Did you really?
Not my current car, but the one before that. Yeah, the car I bought in 2004 was like basically free. It was under 1% interest.
Oh, okay, you meant, yes. After 9/11.
90, what was that? That was 2004. That's what that was.
I worked in the auto industry from 1999 to roughly 2004, 5, something like that. So through the 9/11 thing, I do remember, and I worked for GM. And I remember because especially when Obama came to power, he was trying to really save the industry by, like what was it? Cash for cars or junk or something like whatever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was cash for cars, I think.
Cash for cars?
Or was it
junks?
Oh, was it like junkers for something?
Yeah, it was
cash for junkers. That's what it was.
Was that what it is? I forget the name. That was a little bit later because I was out of the industry by then. But I remember my friends going, "Yeah, this is great," because they were still in the industry. But post 9/11, I'll tell you, the rates were crazy low that I never saw growing up, right? Like in the 80s or 90s. Interest, like you said, was hovering near zero. And people, especially for domestic automakers really tried to play up the whole buy American because they struck us,
right.
They got us on 9/11. So support Merca, buy a big GMC Yukon XL.
Although I don't think I don't think the Saudis really were building a lot of cars, but okay, and they're the ones.
Yeah, but I know. Well, this was like in 2001 when all these programs came to. We didn't know, who was flying the planes and all of that, and
we knew who was flying the plane. We knew who was flying the planes. We just didn't care.
No, we didn't. The public didn't. We didn't know, except for the miraculous passports that survived at 9/11.
Well, that can happen. All right, let's move on here. Continuing with this story, Chinese companies have invested across a range of industries in Germany, from telecommunications to robotics, but they haven't yet set up traditional car manufacturing, even though Benz has 2 large Chinese shareholders. Any such move would mark China's most politically sensitive investment yet. VW has long been a symbol of Germany's industrial prowess, and also Adolf Hitler, now threatened by a global economic slowdown, hitting demand and creaking transition to green technologies. Building cars in Germany for sales in Europe would allow EV makers in China to avoid EU tariffs on e-cars, from China and could pose a further threat to European manufacturers' competitiveness. Yeah, those Chinese cars, they are
Look at this.
They're dirt cheap, man. They're so cheap. It's like ridiculous.
Not only that, I mean, I was shocked to see how pretty they were. I don't know if you just saw that on the screen.
I did. Yeah, no, they're very cute. And some
Like,
of them
no.
really cool.
Look at watch. It's
and
coming.
you know what they have? They have door
right
handles.
there. Look at what?
That's cool. They have door.
They look like supercars.
They look like and they looks like they have, unlike the Tesla, they have door handles. So when you crash, emergency responders can open the door. So that's useful, I think.
Oh, hadn't thought about that, but that would be helpful. But I mean,
no, I would never buy a Tesla for that reason alone.
That never occurred to me, but
that is a really stupid fucking thing. People have died in their cars because the door handle is locked when you're driving.
Like, because don't you have to kind of press it and then it swings open, like the little handle?
It swings open, right? But like if you're driving and you crash the car, the door is still the handle's
computer
not sticking out. They can't. They got to break the window to get you out.
Oh,
and
I hadn't thought about that.
They may not have time, right? I mean, because it's probably on fire because it's an electric car.
I'm just saying, look at this kind of electric. This is an electric car. Like this is a Chinese electric car.
I'm not crazy about the front profile with the the weird eyes.
But it looks like one of these European supercars, right? But it's an electric car. Like it's just kind of amazing to see how far China has come. And
well, and
their
also they have massive economies of scale.
Yes, and their electric cars.
You can buy a car in China for $8,000. I mean, it's crazy. Wow. A brand new car. All right.
Well, those cars, by the way, we need to say that the market, their market share, the Chinese car companies, dwarf that of like all the European makers combined, including add the European makers like Audi, like Volkswagen, which is all Volkswagen, by the way, Porsche. Did
I mention that Volkswagen was founded by Hitler?
Yes. I've owned a Volkswagen and an Audi. I enjoy driving fast cars. Add that with Ford and other domestic makers. The Chinese makers still dwarf them. So it's inevitable. I'm sorry, Germans. It's inevitable. The Chinese are buying up your factories because Mercedes and Volkswagen are underperforming. I'm sorry, but the Chinese are coming. Just saying.
All right. The chief executive of TikTok is going to attend Trump's inaugural. Zhou Jichu has been invited to sit in a position of honor on the dais, typically reserved for former presidents, family members, and other important guests. With more than 170 million American users, and according to Bernstein analysts, about $20 billion of estimated revenue, TikTok is very popular with young people and advertisers. The short video platform, however, is going to shut down all American operations this Sunday when a federal ban is set to take effect, barring a last-minute reprieve. Now, just to be clear here, I think your TikTok will continue to work. It just won't update anymore, and you won't be able, if you don't have one and you don't have the app and you want to make it work. I'm not sure.
TikTok hasn't decided. They haven't made their final call. They said they'll decide on Sunday when this happens, that they may just shut off operations accessible to Americans entirely on Sunday.
Why are they waiting till Sunday? Why not just?
I don't know, but that's what they said.
Sunday?
So
they're like, we need to think on this over brunch and
see how we feel about
Marys.
it. I don't know. I don't know. I think they. At any rate, I downloaded that Lemon8 thing that we talked about on the show the other day. I have TikTok. I don't use it. I'm not the target age demo. Neither are you, Ted. I hate to break it to all the middle-aged people out there. We're not the target age demo. I was told that I was
classic TikTok.
You're TikTok classic. Okay. Yeah. So you're TikTok emeritus.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't use TikTok. I've seen it. I've scrolled a couple of times. It's not targeted for someone like me because I like to actually read. Older people like to move a little slower on things and kind of dive in. TikTok is not like that. But their Lemon8 app. And it says right there, brought to you by TikTok when you log in, and it links your TikTok with your Lemon8 app.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of like, it tells you like, hey, follow all these people that you did on TikTok, and it'll refer your friends and all this stuff because it knows you from TikTok already.
Mm.
And I
But
tested
Lemon8
this
is
last
not
night.
ByteDance, right?
I don't know, because it only says TikTok on it. It doesn't say ByteDance. It says
Huh.
TikTok.
So
So
maybe
that's a little,
well,
I'm
that's weird.
unsure. But
Right.
I will say the Lemon8 app, for old fogies like me, is that it behaves more like Pinterest, which I love.
Oh God,
I
fucking
love
hate
Pinterest. So look, you
Now I
can
think if
tell
you have
the
a
app.
Y chromosome, it doesn't work.
Oh, maybe that's okay. As
Although
a woman,
Pinterest,
we love Pinterest.
I tried to, when we launched the show, I went to look at Pinterest. And by the way, I don't know if you've been on there for a while, but Pinterest
Yeah.
has completely changed. And it's
Well, not completely.
it's completely incomprehensible now. And
Yeah.
Reddit is full of sort of all these people who are like, what the fuck happened to Pinterest?
Yeah. I don't like the changes that they've made, I would say, in the past 6 or 8 months. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know how to explain the changes there, but Lemon8 resembles old Pinterest. So
I literally couldn't even get it to work. I used to be a computer programmer. I mean, no, I'm old, but Jesus Christ.
You tell Lemon8 the areas of interest that you have, like I like news and cooking, and talk to me about home design, like decorating my house, tell it whatever, and it will recommend those videos to you. And so it's not constantly moving where it's like a 30-second video, you know what I mean? Which is what TikTok is.
Right.
It's not a constant scroll. So it's less like spazzy for anyone that's over 35, right? So and I just want to point out that we have on screen, if you remember this
this is
wonderful
this is an amazing exchange.
Wonderful exchange between Mr. Shu,
Josh Hawley.
No, Tom Cotton.
Tom Cotton, same. He's the same person.
They kind of are. Tom Cotton is more despicable and very racist, where he kept fucking insisting that Mr. Chu was Chinese, and he's like, I'm Singaporean. And he's like,
and then my
yeah, but aren't you really
secretly
the
Chinese Communist Party? And it's like, right,
he's
I'm
like,
Singaporean.
I can't be like, what were you doing on
even if
such?
He wanted to sign up, the CCP wouldn't have him.
He's like, what were you doing in the year 2000, on such and such date? He was like, I was serving in the Singaporean military. And he was like, but weren't you secretly serving in the CCP military? I'm Singaporean. It was like over and over. Like, no, I'm from Singapore. Like, I was born and raised in Singapore.
My God. Yeah.
This just shows how racist Tom Cotton is.
And dumb as shit.
And just fucking stupid. And this is why I have the joke that, we all look the same. We all know each other. The billions of us out there, me and Mr. Chu, totally buds. Totally. My cousin Jenny with and my cousin Tammy are friends with his wife's cousin's brother and sister-in-law.
What are you guys like? What are you guys, Southerners? Like, my sister is also my mom, is also my dog.
Exactly my point. And this is how Tom Cotton thinks we all are, and we're all Chinese.
Right.
We're all Chinese. It's King of the Hill. So what are you? When he's talking to Khan, the neighbor from Laos. Yeah. What are you? Are you Chinese or are you Japanese? And he's like, I'm from Laos. And he's like, they look at each other and they're like, so what are you? Japanese or Chinese?
It's so great.
Yes.
So great.
That one. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, Trump is considering issuing an executive order to suspend the shutdown for 60 to 90 days, but there's apparently no legal basis for how he would do that. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court held a hearing, or during oral arguments, they seemed inclined to agree with the government that would force that sale or ban TikTok this coming Sunday. Trump has said he should have some time to pursue a political resolution of the issue after he takes office. I'm not always on Team Trump. I'm not usually on Team Trump, but I think he's right. I mean, this is a relatively important issue for free speech, and it's kind of got to be incredibly frustrating that you're the president-elect and you have this thing like timed to expire the day before you become president. I mean, it's, you could almost take it personally. Anyway, Biden signed a law last April, of course, requiring this sell-off. South African police say that rescuers have recovered 78 bodies. This is a very strange story. And 246 living miners this week from an abandoned gold mine near Stilfontein, that's southwest of Johannesburg, that has been the site of a tense siege since August. Hundreds more miners were believed to still be hiding underground, but rescue volunteers couldn't find them. The miners have been hesitant to leave the mine and have gone months without light, including periods without food and water, because the cops arrested those who came out. Over 1,500 miners have been detained since August. Some have been deported from the country. The majority of the arrested miners come from Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Lesotho to seek a better life in South Africa. Instead, they were targeted by criminal gangs that took over the abandoned commercial mines and forced disadvantaged migrants to risk their lives extracting what little valuable ore is still in there. The men in Stilfontein managed to send letters and pictures via an improvised pulley system that friends and family used to send them food and water. Images of emaciated men sitting among what appeared to be the remains of colleagues have shocked the Rainbow Nation. But people say they are determined to crack down on illegal mining. The police say that. Tackling the heavily armed gangsters who control the mines, however, will be hard. And the siege threatens to upend politics in Johannesburg, where a delicate alliance between the African National Congress, which was, of course, Nelson Mandela's party, and the Democratic Alliance has held together against all expectations since the summer. Manila, that's a very strange story.
Yeah, that was like, no one's talking about this in the West. And this is brought to you right there by our friends at the VOA. We know how much they love us, Ted. They were kind enough to write a press release for us the day before we launched our little podcast here.
That's true. Hello, VOA.
Hi, VOA. They're watching. So thank you. We're using your content because you're a publicly funded institution.
True.
But shout out to the VOA folks. But yeah, this graphic content, this is like, of all the stories for me to stumble across, and I know I read a lot of weird things, this was like shocking that I can't believe no U.S. mainstream media has reported on this like massive human rights violation. But Ted, it reminds me that it's Black people. So, in poor countries. So why would the media cover them?
Whatever.
As Black migrants. Yeah. So who cares? Like, whatever. But it's like, you have, I guess maybe it doesn't, maybe if the criminal gang organization were white, the Democrat controlled news.
Well, they may well be.
They would have jumped on that. No, these are black gangs. I looked further into this, but it's definitely like, I forgot the names of the gangs, but when you dig into this, it's basically Black exploitation. Yeah, what did I say?
Dig into this.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, but it's basically Black on Black exploitation, Black African, not Elon Musk type African.
Right, not that kind.
Black on Black African exploitation. And the mainstream media, this is huge to me, Ted. Like, I got in trouble in the Middle East because I wanted, I was covering humanitarian stories where I was not technically permitted to, because there's no First Amendment in pretty much all the Middle Eastern countries, right? And
in most countries at all, yeah.
That's fair, and certainly not in the early 2000s when I was doing this. But you need to get government permission if you're a foreigner like me, you had to get government permission. You have to state what you're covering if you want to get a permit, like why you're in their country, what you want to cover. And, most countries that are trying to hide human rights violations will not approve your press credential.
By the way, I don't know if we care about this, but here it is anyway. Some breaking news. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has chosen Marco Rubio's replacement because Rubio is going to be Secretary of State.
Oh,
He's chosen the state AG, Ashley Moody, will become
interesting.
the new senator from the state of Florida.
Interim.
Pardon?
Interim, right? It's not a permanent.
Yeah, until the end of the term, I guess that is. So I see. So this seat expires next year.
Right.
Mills said that there probably will be a re-election campaign.
Well, DeSantis is term limited, and it's my understanding that from my own sources down in Florida that he's eyeballing that seat himself.
Right. But
and that Matt Gaetz.
Ashley, though, she says that she's planning to try to run for re-election.
To keep it? I don't know. Who's Ashley Moody, the assistant AG?
No, she's the state AG.
Pam Bondi? She is the state AG?
She's the state AG for Florida, yeah.
Oh.
Pam Bondi, isn't Pam Bondi...
or she was the AG.
Yeah, now she's just Trump's attorney, right?
I don't remember her current position. But yeah, it's musical chairs down in Florida, to say the least. And it's also my understanding from random folks I know down in the Miami area is they say that Trump will likely turn Mar-a-Lago into White House South and that he's going to be there a lot.
Course. Right. Well,
a lot.
Right. Well, I mean, he was there a lot. He was there. I guess he wasn't really there that much in his first term.
Right. But he's figured out, he's like, oh, wait, you're saying I don't have to be in stuffy ass DC? Like, you have to go where I go? Like,
right. Well, Richard Nixon spent a lot of time at the Western White House in San Clemente. So.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's not completely unheard of.
Oh, well, I mean, so I heard that there's construction projects underway.
And Bush was always at the ranch, remember? That's
true. So I heard construction projects are underway at Mar-a-Lago to like fortify the perimeters, and that they're gonna erect, like, not erect, but maybe transform some rooms in the private residence into official skiffs and meeting rooms. And also heard that Melania is not down to move to DC again.
Man, she doesn't really play ball, that one.
She is not. She's not having it. Remember, for the first year or two, while in Trump's first term, while Barron was finishing whatever prep school he was at in New York City.
Yeah, it's just near me.
Oh, okay. So she didn't move to the White House yet at the time. She stayed at Trump Tower with Barron until he finished whatever program he was in. And then they moved, and she moved, and they didn't talk about this very much, but her parents, her Slovenian parents, moved. They were on at the White House grounds with, I don't know if they lived exactly in the same quarters, but they lived on the White House grounds. I don't know if you knew this. Like, they don't talk about it much. Hunter Biden lived before he had this most recent baby, lived at the White House with dad.
I know.
So, Melania's parents, her elderly parents, lived with them. And then when Barron finished his program, she moved Barron and her parents from Trump Tower, finally joining Trump at DC. And then very recently, I think her mom passed away. Melania's mom. Or Melania's dad, one of her parents passed away not too long ago. And I think she just wants to spend time with her family. But she's always kind of been like that, right? Like, she's Eastern European. Eastern Europeans, as we know, have kind of more of an Eastern orthodoxy on how to live life, or is it heterodoxy? Heterodoxy on how they view the world and families. And she's never had a nanny or anything. Like, she's a hands-on mom. So she wants to stay down there now that I don't know. Barron's at what, Columbia or New York?
I think he's at NYU.
NYU. He's at NYU. So now she's like, not going back to DC. DC sucks, man.
By the way, time for an NYU joke. So did you ever see Woody Allen, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask?
Have not seen that one.
Great movie. One of the
Okay.
it's high period Woody Allen. Anyway, so
Okay. Gotta look.
so there's a scene,
that one up.
Tony. So it's a skit from inside the human brain, and it's a date is going on. Tony Randall is in the brain, running the brain, looking through a visor through the man's eyes at his date, who's a woman sitting across the table from him, and so meanwhile he's talking to the sperm, who are like getting ready to go, maybe down in the bowels of like the machinery. And Tony Rand and the guys are like, what do you think? Do we, are we a go? And so Tony Randall looks through the visor and he sees, and she's like going on like about like, post-structuralism and all sorts of theoretical stuff. He goes, I don't know. It's not looking good, guys. And then she goes, I'm a graduate student at NYU. And he's like, it's on!
I guess like New Yorkers, the same way like I find LA tropes funny.
Mm-hmm.
New Yorkers find their own, because it's like an inside joke, right? Because I can only chuckle at something like that, whereas you'll find it hilarious because you've lived in New York for like 30 years. So you like... And
had sex with NYU grad students. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
So
it's true.
So you know. So you get the Woody Allen joke, which although I cannot imagine anybody, much less Mia Farrow, anybody, or his stepdaughter, what's her name? Soon-Mi Park, or what's her name?
Soon-Yi Previn.
Soon-Yi Previn. Park, Previn, whatever, Chan, whatever. Just anybody sleeping with him.
It's apparently true love. I mean, you and I may not approve of it, but we don't have to. It's up to them. They're consenting adults. And like, look, there's no denying the fact that it's lasted for decades. And even though they've been treated like shit and insulted, and every time their relationship comes up, everyone's, including me, sniggers. But like, the point is that objectively we're mistaken, because they love each other, and we should just all approve of that. And love is where you find it, and if you find love in this cruel, hard life, good for you.
Yes, I mean, I know it's his adopted daughter. They have no biological. It's just, ever since that happened, I could never look at Woody Allen the same.
Honestly, I think they're both victims of trauma. I think Mia Farrow is insane, and
probably.
I think she really, according to Soon-Yi, really was a very damaging presence in her life. And also, according to Woody, also to a lesser extent, but you can read between the lines, she drove him insane. And they kind of bonded over that. They trauma bonded over surviving.
Oh my God. I had not read that. And obviously, like with Ronan Farrow, her Frank Sinatra kid, like
yes. Well,
just
Ronan
all kinds
Farrow,
of weird there.
He is a very pretty boy, a very pretty man.
Yes.
And very talented writer. But
very much.
But he's been hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked
by his mom.
About?
Turned against Woody. Like, basically, I think Mia lied about, I don't think Woody, diddled his stepdaughter at all. I just don't think it happened. I mean, I watched the whole, the whole special that came out a few years ago during the pandemic, and it's all completely from the accuser's side, right? There's no defense whatsoever. And it's like,
believe all women.
It's like the Aziz Ansari thing, where where there's no, it's all accusation. There's no defense, and on its face, it does. You're like, I don't buy this. Like Aziz Ansari comes out of it from the accusation looking innocent, right, without even having anything to be said in his favor. This is like that. You watch the Mia Farrow thing, and you're like, I'm listening to everything you say. Woody Allen has no say here, and I don't believe you,
Yeah, I'm not sure I believe her entirely either, but I'm just saying the concept of a step parent having any sexual relations, even with an adult stepchild, having raised them.
But he didn't raise her. Okay, that's really the issue here.
Wasn't she a teenager when he adopted her? Like,
yeah, but I mean, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't live with her. He lived in his own apartment on the east side. They lived on the west side. He didn't see her that much. I mean, it's more like, I mean, I think I'll tell you. I think this is more about the age difference. People.
No.
What used to be really normal.
Young women, old men, all the time. That's not a thing. Like,
well, that used to be a big thing, and now it's like people like frown upon it. But I think that's what it is. It's a backlash.
Yeah.
I think it's ageism, honestly.
I don't. I just think people find it, just when you hear stepdad and stepdaughter, people are like, ew. No matter what the details are.
If they lived under the same roof, maybe. I don't know. I'm French.
I don't know the details.
We take a liberal view to these things.
Yes.
Like for us, Emmanuel Macron, our problem is with his neoliberal politics, not with his, unorthodox love affair with his former teacher.
Yeah, that's really weird. He was 15 when he was
it's kind of hot,
groomed by her, I would say. But at the same
hot.
time, there's a technical age of consent in France, because there's no actual age of consent. That the technical implied age of consent is 15. So
I mean, look, full disclosure, my one of my best friends in high school, I guess was it 10th or 11th grade? Anyway, he what's the word? He fucked our trig teacher. And
your trigonometry teacher?
Oh, she was cute. And no, I mean,
okay.
and I gotta say, I mean, okay, this is totally sexist, but I feel like it's different. Like if it's like a boy, it's okay. Like, like there's all those stories, like, oh, like the famous examples of like the teacher, the hot blonde, usually 25-year-old teacher sleeps with like the 15-year-old high school kid. I would have been so happy if my hot 25-year-old teacher had like seduced me. It would have been like
that's
great.
Like a teenage boy's
I have lots
dream.
of friends that things like that have happened to, like their mom's friend fucked them or whatever when they were 15 or 16.
God.
And they're all like, oh, it's one of the best experiences of my life. But it's different when it's a daughter. I just think it is. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably wrong, blah, 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 but that's how I feel about it.
I know I've heard, that it's a teenage boy's fantasy if you have a hot teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I get it.
Neighbor.
Even the neighbors, mom's friends.
Oh, because you're 15, you will fuck drywall. You're so.
I mean, that's why American Pie was a movie that
when
was,
you're 15 or 16,
blockbuster.
You are losing your fucking mind. You're climbing the wall. If we could harness the sexual energy of a 15 or 16-year-old, that's the ultimate renewable energy source. We can get rid of all fossil fuels.
That's a boy thing. Like us girls. Not that we didn't have thoughts.
Girls are not like that. It fucks them.
But we're not like that.
It ruins them. Yeah.
We're not like that at 16. We're just not.
There's probably there's some exceptions, no doubt, but for
the most part,
of course. Yeah.
For the most part, girls are generally kind of like, no, I'm not ready for. No, I'm not. No, like.
Yeah.
I don't know about now.
Although we're not supposed to say that there's any difference between men and women, and that basically females and
Ted,
males
we're all the same.
We're all the same.
Yeah, I can use your bathroom, a public bathroom. You can use mine.
I can cut off my penis, and then I'm a girl. Like it's all the same.
We can go to the Korean spa together, and you can totally just walk around. Put on some lipstick. That's all. It's the only requirement. Say you're a woman. You can hang out on my side of the spa.
Then I can like free ball it.
Totally, because the laws will protect you as long as you identify. We're all the same. So the sexual urges, all the same. Teenage sexual urges, all the same. Totally all the same. Totally all the same. Anyway,
all right.
I guess that was the last one, right? Yeah.
That was the last one. So what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the ceasefire, or you want to talk about Joe?
We got to hear some sound bites of Joe's swan song.
Okay.
Because the ceasefire, I mean, I think we gave it a good amount of time.
I think so too. And I think with the ceasefire, we know that what's going to happen here. Here's my prediction. I think you're probably going to agree with me. There will be we already know they can do the phase one because they did that back in November of last year. They're going to release a bunch of corpses inexplicably. I don't know why. And hopefully as
collector's edition,
some live people exactly collect them all. They're going to get they're going to get some hostages, dead and alive, back. The Israelis will release their hostages, because that's what they are, also to the Palestinians. Although they're going to be the good news is you're free. The bad news is you're going back to Gaza. So they're going to do that, and then they're going to get completely stuck on phase 2 and 3 when they're trying to negotiate who's running Gaza, not
Right.
Hamas. Hamas would be like, no, we like us. We want us to be in charge. And that's going to be fair.
And to be fair, up in the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, has not held elections in like 20 years.
That's
right?
true. Mm-hmm.
They have done nothing in the way to help their own people, and nobody is in leadership. We don't even know if Mahmoud Abbas is actually still alive, or
he's
we're looking at a hologram.
Of years old.
Yeah, he's like 1,000 years old, and nobody has seen him since all of this stuff broke out in the past year. No one has seen him. Can anyone verify to me that Mahmoud Abbas is actually even still alive?
I think he did make some sort of public appearance about 6 months ago. So at least as of then, I remember seeing that.
So I don't know. Like there's no. So I'm not.
Anyway,
obviously,
they can't rule the West Bank. How can they fucking rule?
I know. I'm not victim blaming here by any means. By any means. However, he's not doing his people any favors by kicking the can down the road for elections 1,000 times in order to not have elections at this point. I think we're looking at roughly 20 years, if I recall. It's something close to that. It's a ridiculous amount of time to not have elections and to not have the true authority to negotiate with other powers. So I don't really know. I mean, it leaves a power vacuum for groups like Hamas, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because the PA has done a piss poor job of actually like showing that they're in charge. Right?
Well, they're completely emasculated by the Israelis, in all fairness. And also, in all fairness, they are completely corrupted and worthless, just like you said. So It's kind of like one of those, they're not inclined to do the job, and they wouldn't be able to do it even if they were so inclined.
Right. And especially because I think Mahmoud Abbas might be older than our current president. People forget.
Oh, yeah, he's old.
This guy's still president for a few more days. I think we forgot about him already. Trump has been de facto president for the past 2 months, Ted.
Abbas is 89.
89. I thought he was older, but 89 is not young. Ted, I think you can agree, ever since elections, Trump has been the de facto POTUS since then, pre-election. I mean, pre-inauguration.
That's obviously true.
Because he's the one talking to all the world leaders came to Mar-a-Lago. Everybody came to kiss the ring. He has been issuing diktats via Truth Social, and the world is reacting to them.
It makes sense, right? I mean, it's not only that Biden lost, it's that he abdicated his position last summer and stepped aside in favor of Harris. Because he was too
He didn't step aside. They dragged him away.
Well, that's true. That's true. But he was demented, and he had to go. So, yeah.
Yes, and so there is a part of me that I know this man doesn't deserve it. 50 years in power, 50 years of corruption, but because I'm sorry, I'm a sucker, and I just see humans in all humans, no matter who they are. I see humans, and I see a decrepit old man whose family exploited the family name, dad's position of power, husband's position of power. Just a man that is so old that didn't have the power anymore to know that A, that's happening to him, and B, to push back on his own family for their own corruption. Forget just his. We all know 50 years of power, 50 years of corruption. But what about his family and how they've treated this old man, and how Jill has been complicit in doing Weekend at Bernie's with her own husband for the past year, right? Where he's totally just shit hit the fan. Jill has been complicit. We saw the images we covered on this show. Jill holding like the one cabinet meeting Jill was holding forth, not Joe. Like, she's absolutely complicit because I think she was drunk with power. I think she also exploited her husband.
Oh, she's more than complicit. I mean, she's definitely more than complicit. Yeah.
It's gross. To me, I see an exploitation when you look at the Biden family, an exploitation of an old man. And I mean,
he's not a victim in any of this, though. He
doesn't deserve my sympathy.
He's so vainglorious. He is so egotistical. You know, I mean, he is a man who's just wallowing in his own, you know, absurd, over the top overestimation of his abilities and the need of the country for him. I mean, really, truly, Joe, we were fine before you. We're going to be fine without you. Don't worry.
Oh, I agree. And one of the things that I thought about during his farewell speech was, and you know her too, my friend Tara Reid, who I believe, unfortunately, will never see this brought to justice.
Oh, I think no. She's not getting justice. No.
Like, I think he is gonna slink away. You know, 100%. I would guess his days are numbered, right? Like, literally his days are numbered. And I don't think there will be a proper investigation into what Joe did to her in the 90s when she was a young woman, and kind of, you know, it ruined her life.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Hey, let's watch some clips.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I see. That's what I saw last night. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I see all of those things in this from last night. So, but I see a lot of the shit ass family that he has around him. And I think it'd be wrong not to mention that. So, okay, let me show you a couple of sound bites here. A farewell to remember. All right, do I have audio here? All right, where is it? Okay, here it is. Here we go.
Speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office.
Not sure if that's...
Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team.
In May of this year? He knows we're in January, right? Maybe not.
And will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. Speaking to you tonight from the...
So that was one.
That's not too bad. I mean, that's sort of standard Joe Biden.
Yeah, but he wanted, it was very clear.
And the main point of this speech was supposedly about he trying to echo Eisenhower, the big industrial complex, blah, blah,
Here's
blah.
that soundbite. Right. And I'm not saying I'm a lover of Ike, but Ike also wasn't wrong. But Ike, Biden is not.
Was no Ike.
He's no Ike.
You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. You know,
okay, so he doesn't like the tech bros. That's what I gathered. That's the translation for me. Was that how you took it?
Yeah, I think he's trying to do the shorthand thing about like Elon and Vivek and you know, and Bezos. It's that's what this is about.
Yeah, that's a reference to them all going to kiss the ring, and Elon being bosom buddies.
I mean, certainly. I mean, look, oligarchy is obviously, look, it's upon us. We're wallowing in it. We are at
When have we not been, Ted?
Well, it's getting worse and worse. We're in very, very late stage
I mean,
capitalism.
Vanderbilt.
Well, yes.
Right.
There's a chart going around
Morgan,
the internet that anyone can just find easily that sort of shows wealth disparity just in the few years prior to the French Revolution, and how it's the same here now. Obviously, these are very different economies and very, very different, a quarter of a millennia apart. So, it's apples and oranges. But, the point is still well taken. I mean, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That keeps happening, keeps getting worse and worse. And the rich are able to insulate themselves from all the problems like climate change. And the poor are increasingly exposed to those, LA fires notwithstanding as a possible exception. This is a major issue, but it's hilarious to be warned by someone who's a proponent of all that stuff. I mean, who's been promulgating
who's a beneficiary of these oligarchs.
I mean, it's not like when Trump at one point said oh, I know how corrupt the system is. I know because I used to use it. Now that's powerful.
I respect that.
When someone says you got to be careful because Eisenhower, military industrial complex is out of control. Really, Eisenhower? You would know. Okay, former 4-star general.
Aren't you a general?
Yeah.
Aren't you a general?
Commander of the Supreme Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe. Yeah, you might know something about that. But yeah, I don't know.
But look, maybe Biden was referring to his youth when the railroads were being built and the oligarchs and land barons. Look, Ted, that is what this country was founded on. Never once has America not had oligarchs, but we don't, because we're a democracy and the beacon of democracy for the world. We don't call them oligarchs.
Right.
That's
what we call them when they're in Russia. But they are the same thing, and
it is the same, 100% the same thing.
I mean, look, I've always said it. I will continue to say it. Democracy is incompatible with capitalism.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's pretty fair. But this guy I know that he doesn't know what he's reading, because at one point he reads end of quote. Did you catch that last night? He reads end of quote, and I went, oh.
Yeah, he does that. It's not the first time he's done that.
End quote.
He's also read wait for applause.
Oh, yeah, I know. Why does anyone even do that? Just leave a big blank space and let him stare at a blank screen until
blank. I see blank, blank, blank.
It's all black in here. Why I can't? There's nothing on the teleprompter. Oh,
it's black inside my brain.
It's very sad. But
I'm deeply concerned about the potential rise of a tech industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power.
The abuse of fucking power? Get out of here, Biden. Entire administration who literally put you and I out of work. Why? Because they believe in the First Amendment and freedom of speech so much. They believe in a free press so much that they unjobbed us, Ted, and many of our colleagues. Mm-hmm. They wanted to foist Nina Jankovic on us to because fact checking and social media control is all about democracy in the 21st century, and all those who oppose it are obviously Russian. You're just Russian.
And I love that. The whole, he's they're getting rid of fact checkers. He's referring to Facebook. It's the fact checkers were the people who were spreading the misinformation. So
oh my God, this is just it was just a whole lot of, oh my God. And I was just screaming at the TV last night. Are you fucking kidding me? And I know he doesn't know. He didn't write this. He doesn't know.
No, he absolutely did not write this. No question.
No. But here's why on the lower third that I put, for Biden, retirement, rejection, and resentment. It's all the phases of his speech. Because he's basically saying, yo, look, after 50 years, I'm retiring. You all rejected me. And, and he said,
I hate you.
And I fucking hate you. And I hate this bitch because she turned on me in the 11th hour. Fuck this bitch. There should be term limits. There's he, on his way out, said it. Whoever wrote the speech wrote it in a very diplomatic and nice fashion, obviously. But really what he's saying is, fuck this bitch. I thought she was my friend the last 40 years. She fucking turned on me on the 11th hour and our team lost. So I'm out, bitch. Good luck. That's basically what he says here.
We need to enact an 18-year term limit, time and term for.
Because Nancy's been there for 1,000 years.
The strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to enact an 18-year time limit.
Yeah, Nancy's filthy rich. Well, her husband.
From trading stock.
Yes. So it was a swipe at Nancy, obviously. He's talking about all these reforms and whatever, but to me, this was his swipe on the way out the door at the people that turned on him at the last minute. So those were, thanks to Vigilant Fox for.
Well, it's it's like Eisenhower in that they're both right, although the details are ridiculous and they're complete hypocrites. I mean, obviously the military-industrial complex turned out to be a massive fucking problem. It only got worse, and the tendency of capitalism's natural tendency to aggregate power and money has accelerated to the point where now the American dream is dead as a doornail, and it's really hard for people to get ahead, even if they're gifted and talented and hardworking. So that's the thing. That's I'm kind of I guess don't want to lose track of the fact that these messages are both true. But it's hilarious also because we always talk about the warning of the military-industrial complex speech from 1961. No one ever slowed down the expansion of the military-industrial complex after that speech. No one ever said, oh, and then we woke up, and then it's not like the Surgeon General's warning that eventually led to the reduction and curtailing and regulation of tobacco. It led to nothing at all, except, well, there was a speech.
That was a good speech.
And like here, I guess he's hoping that there will be some kind of similar, well, I guess when the country's even got a greater gap between rich and poor in 60 years, but we won't even be around in 60 years. But at that point, we'll look back and be like, wow, there was this speech that changed absolutely nothing. I mean, it's vapor. It's the perfect end for a presidency that was based on a lie that, I'm only going to serve one term. I'm not really insane.
He didn't think that though.
What?
He thought he was getting a second term.
Yeah. And I gotta be fair. People always say that he promised to only serve one term. He didn't really promise that. What he did is he let it be known through leaks to places like The Hill and Politico in 2019 that it was his intention to only run for one term. And he never, countered that. So he let it be known. He signaled it through his people. And then I guess he could say he had plausible deniability when he decided to run again. But, but the whole thing, as we know from the Wall Street Journal expose, the whole entire going back to day one, even during the campaign, he was senile the whole time. And yes. And it's like, he has good days and bad days. And a dick. Yeah. A big asshole.
You and I actually covered that on our old show on Sputnik when that, a bunch of people that had left the West Wing, staffers, told, was it the New York Times or Journal, that they're like, yeah, he's a crotchety, grumpy old man and often like curses at us and he's angry all the time. And I said back then, and I stand by it, and you and I have experience with family members who have gone through senility, when with Alzheimer's.
Turning mean is not unusual.
That happens. And that's
Although
I said, I'm telling you,
no one's ever really alleged that Joe Biden was ever a nice person.
Oh, that's true. Well, I don't know. I've heard, and from John Kiriakou himself, two wings of this bird is that Joe Biden is actually, well, the former Joe Biden, before he became
the man formerly known as Joe Biden.
Yes. When he was Senator Biden, that Senator Biden was quite charismatic and that people, like he had a je ne sais quoi about him.
Oh, I think that's true.
And that's why.
He had swagger.
Yeah, like people genuinely kind of liked him, that he was kind of charming and sweet in a, hometown kind of a way, that people liked him as he presented, not so much people that worked for him, but as he presented. And then John Kiriakou later got to feel the flutter of the other wing, we'll say, at a private event where Joe Biden basically told him, like, what are you doing here? I don't like you. Fuck off, and walked away. So it's like, oh, so the stories about Joe Biden being a asshole, shitty man. He's like, oh yeah, it's two wings of the same bird. It's just there's one side of him that's charismatic and charming, and another side that's kind of a dick. So yeah. So there you go. But so anyway, that's, I think, probably going to be the last we're going to talk. Not the last entirely, Ted, but probably not going to talk about this old man very much after this.
Well, we will be, I'm sure. I mean, he's a former president. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like he set a lot of things into motion that we're going to be dealing with, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
I still think about George W. Bush sometimes. Still think about Reagan. Reagan changed a lot. So. Well,
Bush put us in the Middle East. Bush number 2, that is, put us in the Middle East forever. So, there's that. And Biden has made our relationship with Russia. I don't know if it's irreparable.
By the way,
but it's
breaking news: Nancy Pelosi will not attend the inauguration.
I was just going to say that Michelle Obama has her people put out an official statement that she's not going to attend. So we're not going to get Nancy doing this.
Just as well.
So whatever, whatever.
So don't go. Whatever.
So don't go. Nobody cares, lady.
Yeah.
Like whatever. All right. So that's that. We'll just have the tech bros there. The fake Chinese tech bro will be there, wherever he's from, right? Some kind of Asian TikTok guy. Whatever. So that's going to be that's coming on Monday, guys. This is Thursday. I just want to point that out. So we're almost there. Last thing we're going to put up here on the screen. Remember, on Fridays, we're looking to answer some questions.
That's true.
Email us. Send us an audio. If you don't know how to do audio on your phone, just tape a video without actually putting your face on it. If you don't want us to see, just send us a question, whatever it may be. It could be love life. It could be finance. It could be anything. Ted and I are looking to be your next Dear Abby. Dear Ted in Manila. That's kind of how it should start, right, Ted? Dear Ted in Manila, blah, 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 blah. So my my ex-girlfriend is a slut. What do you think? Something like that.
Whatever the question is. It could be my boss is doing this. I'm thinking of doing that. Whatever. It could be about politics. It could be personal.
Yeah.
I think I would personally love some personal questions, but like
an ask anything.
Well, like we could do that too. But I'll also thinking like, I need some advice on how to deal with my father-in-law, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I'm actually, surprisingly, I'm actually very diplomatic with like interpersonal relationships. Like I'm very good at mediating, believe it or not.
I'm good at other people, at giving people advice for other people. My own personal life is completely fucked up, but,
that's everything.
I can give you good advice.
That's everybody. That's like all the
Yeah.
therapists, like their lives are all fucked up, right?
Mhm.
But they're sometimes 50-50. It's a toss up. They could be good at helping you weed through your stuff.
Yeah, it's like the
Your personal life.
fat smoking doctor can still give you great advice, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, like, but believe it or not, I'm very good at mediating, especially familial stuff, because I've had so much of that strife in my own family. I'm actually very good at brokering. Like, I will help you broker a peace deal between you if you're angry at your dad or your mom. I will help you. I'm actually very good at that stuff. I've had a tumultuous childhood with family issues, and I have always been like the mediator in my family, even as a child. So I'm actually very good at that. I don't know why. But then if anybody crosses me, I'll be the first to be like, hey, back off, fuck you. Like, who are you? You know, not very nice, but I won't tell you to do that. So email us right there. TMI Show question. Just one question. TMI Show question at yahoo.com, because we're aiming to do that on Fridays. So shoot us any question and ask anything or advice.
Okay.
Send it our way. Thank you guys for staying with us. It's one more day to the weekend, and then bye-bye TikTok, bye-bye Biden, and hello Trump. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe button wherever you guys are watching. We thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back mañana. So have a good Thursday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday. You made it to the weekend, almost pre-weekend. Bye.
Bye, Manila. Bye, everyone.
Bye.